Movie buffs, welcome back to another episode of Fun with Films. Yes, we're not the movie bay anymore, we're Fun with Films. And I think that's appropriate for the channel. So, in this episode of Fun with Films, we're going to talk about my Denzel Washington movies. Notice I didn't name it my favorite Denzel Washington films. All of these aren't my favorite, but because I am a fan of Denzel Washington, I try to make sure I get almost every film. I'm missing a few, and when I find them, I'll definitely add them to the collection. But I got 90% of what I really want. So, with that being said, let's dive in and take a look at my Denzel films. It's quite a few films, so we're going to move through it quick. I'm just going to show you the film, the front and back of the case, and just give you a couple of seconds on the movie. First up, we're going to take a look at one. Now, this is not one of my favorites, but it's a good film. It's Inside Man. It's a good film. It's just not one of my favorite Denzel films. When you think about the massive body of work this man have, you may put this as one of your favorites, and me not so much. You got Jodie Foster, Denzel Washington, and Clive Owen. It's basically about a bank robbery, and Clive Owen was an absolute mastermind. I'll leave it at that, and we'll move on to the next one. Inside Man. Next up is one of my favorites. This is in my top 5 of the greatest Denzel films, and that's saying a lot. The Book of Eli. Now, this is a Blu-ray. I bought this used from a local mom and pop store. Not Goodies, but a different store, and it came in this funky case. It was fine. I'm okay with it. This was obviously a Blockbuster rental, and just to show you, it is a Blu-ray in there. This was definitely a rental unit. This movie is Denzel Washington and one of my other favorites, Gary Oldman. They star opposites in this, and Denzel Washington is on a mission from God himself to deliver a Bible, the last Bible on earth, to this this outpost. I guess they're going to rebuild humanity. It's post-nuclear war Earth, I do believe. Check this one out. It's a fantastic film. Now, I had to watch this twice to get it, but once I got it, it became one of my favorites. Next up, here's one that well, here we go. Safe House. Now, this is one, I didn't watch all of it. It was kind of boring to me. And because it's Ryan Reynolds, I'll be honest with you, he's not outside of Deadpool, I don't find his acting chops good at all. And he's very boring on screen. And to me, he drugged this movie down. Just like he killed Green Lantern. He's just not, this is Safe House. I didn't really see all of it to really go into it, but I think Denzel Washington is like a really bad guy. Ryan Reynolds got him in witness protection in a safe house. I think that's pretty much the gist of it. Definitely not one of my favorites. Again, I'm a Denzel fan, so it's in my collection. Here's one that's a really good Denzel movie. Again, not one of my favorites, but a really good one. And this is The Great Debaters. You got a really good cast here. You got Forrest Whitaker. You got, what's his name? Jeez. It's a lot in here. Let's see. Denzel Washington, Forrest Whitaker, Richard Roper. It's a really good movie. Here's another one. Now, this could be one of my favorites, but it's low on my favorites. And this is Ricochet. This is a very old Denzel movie. This is a very young Denzel Washington with John Lithgow. The movie was good. Denzel Washington basically arrested Lithgow's character earlier. Years go by. Denzel becomes a district attorney. Lithgow comes back, takes revenge on him. Good movie. Typical type of movie for the time. Check it out. Ricochet. This is an older Denzel film. Next up, we're going to take a look at two. Now, Denzel Washington, if you think about it, guys, he didn't do a lot of movies with sequels. Sequels and prequels. I can only really think of the Equalizer 1 and 2, where he was actually in a 1 and 2 of a movie. Maybe if I'm wrong, drop a line in the comment section. But let's talk about the Equalizer 1 and 2. Now, the Equalizer 1 was much better than 2. I had 1 on Blu-ray, 2 on DVD, and I'm fine with that. I think this was the better film anyway. This is a reimagining of the early 80s or mid 80s TV show, The Equalizer, starring Edward Woodward. Basically, he was like a retired special government assassin or whatever, and he's helping people in the streets. Like a one-man A-team, if you would. Denzel Washington does a fantastic performance in the first one. I thought it was awesome. The dinner scene with him and Nikolai, I think it was, that really set the tone of this movie. This movie is all that really good. Now, when we think about The Equalizer 2, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't as good as 2. And I'll leave it at that. If you can get The Equalizer 1 and 2, now still, on the used market, if you try to like get this online, I got this at one of my local mom and pop stores. If you try to get this one online, it costs more than the first one. Go figure. Especially on Blu-ray. This is pretty pricey on Blu-ray. That's why I have it on DVD, because I haven't been able to find it for a decent enough price. Because it's not really that great of a movie, I didn't want to spend the extra money on it for Blu-ray because it's not that great. Next up is a phenomenal film. One of Denzel's best performances. So this is one of my favorite Denzel films. John Q. This is a story about a father who would do anything to save his son who desperately needs a heart transplant. His young son needs a heart transplant, and he went through hell and high water to get that for his son. You got to see this. This is a tearjerker. This is an absolute tearjerker. John Q. Next up, this is definitely one of my favorites. This is probably in the medium range of my favorites. It's not my top favorite, but it's like medium range. It's not low range, definitely medium range. American Gangster, based off of a true story. In fact, the guy that this movie is based on, he just died not too long ago. Russell Crowe, Denzel, you had T.I. in here, you had Common in here. You had a great cast. The guy who, I forget his name right off the top, the guy who played in 12 Years a Slave. He was in here. There's a lot of star power in here. You got to check this one out. It's a really good movie, guys. It's one of my favorite Denzel films. It's like middle of the road favorite Denzel film for me. Okay. And that was the story of Frank Lucas. That's who the movie is based on, the life of Frank Lucas. Next, we're going to take a look at Malcolm X. This is definitely in the top Denzel films for me. This is the top. This is in that top tier of my favorite Denzel films. This is probably one of his better performances. Let me stop saying better. This is probably one of his best performances, because a lot of his performances are really good. This is one of his best performances. I don't think they've done a Malcolm X movie that came close to this. I don't think so. Maybe if they did, let me know. But Denzel Washington and Spike Lee, they achieved something really great with this movie. Spike Lee had a hard time getting the funding for this movie, but he got it, and he put this movie together, and wow, you had a lot of star power in this too. You had Delroy Lindo, Denzel Washington. You had Spike Lee was in it. It was a great film. Check this one out, guys. My next Denzel film is, now this isn't one of my favorites. It's not even one of my favorites. It's just a movie in my collection. It's good, but it didn't make my favorite list. It's Fallen. It's about like a demon that's stalking Denzel Washington in this movie. John Goodman is in here. The ending is creepy as hell. It's actually a good movie. It really is a good movie. It just didn't make my favorite list of Denzel movies, but it is a really good movie. And it is a good Denzel movie, so check out Fallen. Next up, now this is probably my number 2 Denzel film. This is so high on my favorites for Denzel Washington. It's probably number 2, maybe 3, but it's in the top 5 for sure. Crimson Tide. Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington are opposites in this movie, and man, this movie is fantastic from start to stop. A lot of star power in this one too. Well, not a lot, but you got some star power. You got a young James Gandolfini is in here. The guy from A History of Violence, I always mess his name up. Viggo Morrison, I think that's his name. You got, this movie is really good, guys. I mean, if you're a Denzel guy and you don't have this in, or a gal, and you don't have this one in your collection, you go ahead and check this one out and get a hard copy of this one in your collection. You can find this cheap all day, especially on DVD. Blu-ray is still reasonably priced, but you can catch this on DVD for a really good price. Next up is, this one is in my top. It's in my top Denzel movies, but it's not at the top of the top. Put it that way. This is like mid-grade in my favorites of Denzel. This is definitely a favorite. It's like mid-grade. And this is Glory. Now, this, I am going to upgrade this to DVD. It's a very old movie, and I would like to see this cleaned up with good audio and better visuals. So I'm dying to get this on Blu-ray. If I can find this for a good price on Blu-ray, I'll upgrade this. You got a really great cast in here, guys. You got to check this one out. Look at this. Matthew Broderick, Denzel Washington, Gary Ells, Morgan Freeman, and more. This is a fantastic film. It's a very old Denzel film. This is like when he was still breaking out. He wasn't all the way broken out when this one came out. He was breaking out. This actually led to him becoming who he is. This movie catapulted him onto the mainstream. That's Glory. Next up, now this is a movie that I thought was good, but it had a lot of star power in it, but it was entertaining, but it didn't have the wow factor. It was good though. That's The Magnificent Seven. This was really good. Denzel did a good job playing the role of Sam Chisholm, I do believe. You had a lot of talent. Yeah, Ethan Hawke in here. You had just a lot. I think Ethan Hawke, Chris Pratt, Denzel Washington, D'Onofrio, I think that's his last name. He's in here. It's a really good movie. A lot of action. It's good, but it didn't have that wow factor. When I watch a Denzel movie, I get a wow factor from almost every one of them. And this one didn't have it for me. It might have had it for you, but it didn't have it for me. But this is a good film. Not knocking it. I think all of these films are good films, but some of them just have that wow factor and some of them don't. Next up is one that I seen a long time ago. I actually just got it, and I didn't even take the wrap off. I didn't even watch it. I had it it's been wrapped for a while, but I saw this movie a long time ago, and this is Courage Under Fire. Excellent Denzel Washington film. You got, let's see, who's in here? Meg Ryan, there we go. So you got Meg Ryan, you got Matt Damon is in here. Fantastic film. I saw it a long time ago. It's good. Denzel Washington is basically a officer, and he's doing an investigation, but he's also battling his own demons in the process of doing this investigation. Check out Courage Under Fire. It's a really good movie. Again, that's not in my top Denzel, but it's a good movie. Now we're starting to move up a little bit. I'm going to knock out, let's see. I'm going to knock out two that's not in my top before we start moving into, let me save my top here. Okay, let me save the top. The last three are going to be the tops. So we're going to go to Out of Time. Out of Time is a good one because Out of Time is like, it's like Running Scared. If you've seen the movie Running Scared with Paul Walker, this is almost like Running Scared where Denzel Washington, he messed up. And he's one step behind what he messed up with. You got to see it. I'm not going to tell you what, but just know this is a really good Denzel Washington film. Again, it didn't crack my top 5, but it's really good. It didn't crack the top 5, but it's a good one. You might want to check this one out. And this is one that probably everybody don't know about. Here's another one. This one could have cracked my top 5. It's just when you think about Denzel and you trying to come up with 5 films that are your top 5 Denzel films, it's hard. So you have to eliminate a lot of good ones. Now, if you do a top 10, you can open it a little bit, but The Siege. This was a wonderful, wonderful Denzel Washington film. You got Bruce Willis in here. Bruce Willis and Denzel Washington, they both are on the same side, but not on the same side. Bruce Willis is a really nasty-ass general in here. She's like all over the place. And Denzel is an FBI agent. The FBI tower was blown up. There's a terrorist. Oh, this is good. If this was a top 10, if I was going on my top 10 Denzel films, this would probably make it like around 8 or 9. but this is a good film. It's called The Siege. Check this one out. Okay, here's another one. This one almost made the cut too, but I had to eliminate it as far as my top 5. So far, I got 3 left for my top 5, and this is not one of them. This is The Bone Collector. Now, this movie, I remember seeing this when this first came out. I think I told you guys a story of how I first started on DVDs in one of my previous videos. I got a special offer in the mail when I bought Toshiba. Was it a Toshiba? Yeah, it was a Toshiba Blu-ray DVD player. And the offer was for 5 free movies. This was one of the 5 free movies that I got for buying that Toshiba DVD player back when DVD players really started to come out. So yeah, The Bone Collector. This is good. This is Angelina Jolie and Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington is like one of the greatest forensic minds alive in this time. And he was paralyzed in an accident early in the film. He was paralyzed. And he's really going through it. He's having really bad spasms and stuff like that. And he takes Angelina Jolie under his wing, and she becomes a forensic officer as well. Queen Latifah is in this one too. So is Ed O'Neill from Al Bundy, Married with Children. Let's see. Here's another one. This one didn't even... I got this one because I'm a fan. I'm not going to say I didn't like it. I liked it, but it wasn't... It was nothing really. And this is the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. This is a remake. There is an original version of this movie, an older version. I did not see the original, but I know this is a remake of the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, which is a train. John Travolta is opposite of Denzel Washington. This was a good enough movie. This is like a popcorn movie. This is, when you think about a Denzel movie, this is, if you go into this with the high expectation that you would set for a Denzel Washington movie, this won't hit it. But it's an okay film. I'm not going to say it's bad. So that's the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Next up, last but not least, this was a decent film. It wasn't all that, but it was good. Deja Vu. Now, in this one, you have Val Kilmer and Jim Caviezel and others. It's a really nice lenticular cover. You'll like that. Actually, it's not lenticular. It's just got a really nice cover. This is a good movie. It's about not time travel, but time travel. You got to see it. They do it with electronics instead of magic. Really good film. But it didn't make my top list because I'm doing a top 5. Now, the last 3 are favorites. These are definitely favorites of mine. Okay? So, without further ado, we're going to dive in and take a look at number 3. Man on Fire. Man on Fire is a movie. He plays the role of Creasy, who is over in Mexico. He's hired as a bodyguard, and they have, in this part of Mexico, they're having problems with child abductions. So he's brought on to be the bodyguard for this little girl. Something happens, and wow, there's some good lines in here too. You got to check this one out. Christopher Walken plays like one of his ex-partners from his previous life when he was, I guess, in the special forces or whatever he was doing, CIA. But this one is good. I mean, Denzel Washington really shows his action movie badass side in this one. You gotta check this one out, guys. That's number 3. Number 2 for my favorite Denzel films is The Hurricane, based on a true story of Reuben Carter, who was wrongfully convicted for murder during a time in America where it was very easy to be wrongfully convicted of a crime. So this is a true story. Reuben Carter actually fought this years later. Actually, some Canadians came to his aid, and they got him the resources that he needed. They fought the case. He won, and now he resides in Canada. So this is the true story of Reuben the Hurricane Carter. You got to check this one out. It's a real tearjerker because the man went to jail for a very long time for a crime that the police knew he didn't commit. The police detective was a very evil man. I hope he burns in hell for what he did, because this is a true story. That's why I'm saying that. I hope he burned in hell for what he did. Check this one out, guys. You won't be disappointed. My favorite Denzel movie today. Now, there's a lot of Denzel movies that I love, and I have a top 5, but there's more than 5 that I really love. But for the sake of the video, Training Day. And the reason why I like this, not because Denzel played a bad guy in the film, it's because he played a bad guy. I never seen Denzel play this type of role before until I seen him play this role. And I didn't know he was that versatile to be the bad guy. I was always used to seeing Denzel being the good guy. In all of these films here, he is the good guy. He's not the, let's see, I'm trying to think. He's not the bad guy in any of those films we just looked at. He's the bad guy in this film. He's a damn good bad guy. I mean, wow. I mean, and a lot of people say he got the award for this movie just because he played the bad guy. No, 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 no. It wasn't just because he played the bad guy. It was because nobody ever saw him play that type of really nasty role that he played, and he did it. I mean, he did that. I don't even think guys who's used to being bad guys in movies could have did it better than Denzel. He killed it in this movie. Ethan Hawke, they killed it. Both of them together, the way it kind of worked, man, this movie was all that. There's a lot of good lines in here. The acting is good. I mean, Training Day, definitely. Because I'll be honest with you guys, this movie came out of nowhere. When this movie came out, I got a free screening. I'll never forget, me and my wife got a free screening to go see this movie. And I'm like, Training Day, what the hell is that? Okay, all right, fine. We went to go see it. And I was like, again, remember we talked about yesterday, well, not yesterday, today. You go into a movie with low expectations and you leave out like, so that's what this was. I went into it with very low expectations and I left like the movie Blow. I just kind of like, okay, we'll watch it. And I was like, that's what this one is. This one is Training Day. This is my #1 Denzel film as it sits right now. So that's my Denzel Washington films. You saw all that I have for Denzel Washington. There's more to come. I think there's about 5 or 6 more that I want to add to my collection as far as the Denzel Washington flicks. I think he's starting to slow down. He's getting up there in age. He's been, haven't really been putting out a ton of stuff lately. But I am looking forward to grabbing He Got Game. It's an old movie. I should have had it, but I'm looking forward to getting He Got Game and Fences. I could have grabbed Fences anytime I saw it in the store a couple times. I just kind of passed it by, but I'll grab that and a couple others. So this is D from Fun with Films. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for supporting the channel. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.